Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. This is going to be a golf swing analysis for Hicks Lax 2. Spin to the golf subreddit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the swing now. And a lot to like here about this motion. I believe that you had indicated you're more of a beginner level, which is awesome. And I'm going to try to tailor some of this advice to that. I'm not going to go super in-depth with more of the technical stuff, but I do want to kind of hope we can square away some of the basics. For starters, there's a lot to like about your setup, and oftentimes for a beginner, I think it's just really important you start with the basics, the basic fundamentals of the golf swing, and a lot of that would include how you set up to the ball. So how you aim, how you set up your body, how you grip the club. Now, there are parts of your grip that I am seeing that just kind of cause me to wonder about how it is shaping up. And kind of what I want you to think about is that your grip and your wrists, so the way you're using your hands and your wrists, are probably one of the most important fundamentals in the golf swing, because they have a direct control over the club face, and how the club face is moving in coming into the golf ball is probably the single most important variable. And so learning how to control the club face is just absolutely critical. So to starters, I'll kind of go over what I can see and what that tells me. So to start, I would say that the club face is looking a little bit closed. And when I get to about this checkpoint, this is called position 1, then it looks to me like the club face is kind of on this angle, something like that. So it is kind of pointing down at the ball, which is not a problem, but just a little bit of a indicator there. It's kind of pointing in this direction, and I would say you want it kind of somewhere between the ball and kind of straight out, somewhere in between those two extremes would be ideal. And so you're in that position, but that's telling me that it is a little bit stronger, on the stronger side, which is totally fine. Then the second indicator that I'm seeing is you've got a little bit of a bow here in your left wrist, especially as you get up to the top. Now, you're wearing a watch, so I am not sure exactly if I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing, but to me it appears that you have a little bit of a bow in this left wrist, which is actually totally fine, and bowing your wrist will close the face. And there are a lot of great golfers these days that play from that position. And having a strong left-hand wrist is actually an excellent fundamental for a beginning golfer to have. However, it almost appears that, now again, the club doesn't make it all the way back, but what I would look for here is if you have kind of a neutral to strong grip and your left wrist is bowed, I would look to see that the club face is kind of maybe angled a little bit more closed than it is, but it's hard to really see. But then as we come down, it appears to me that now the club face is actually pretty open relative to where it was. You can see now kind of at a similar position here on the downswing, we're at this angle, okay? So your club face was more closed in the backswing and now is more open coming down. So it's almost as if the positions and the angles that you built up in the backswing, you've kind of lost them. And then especially if you look kind of right here, I think you can really see that the club face in this point is very open, and I would want it to be pointing down at the golf ball more. And so what I would kind of recommend you do is do some YouTube searching for fundamentals on the grip. There's a lot of material out there, and most all of it is quite good. For you, I would kind of, a general recommendation would be to look for maybe 2 or 3 knuckles on your left hand. It's kind of a pretty good, solid starting point. It's just, somewhere between pretty neutral and a little bit strong. And then the other really, really big component is where the grip is sitting in your hands. Okay, so what I mean by that is where not only how strong your grip is, but where does it sit in your hand versus in your palm, okay? And what my recommendation would be is that you would avoid this grip right here where it's running up into your palm. And instead, if you note how it's running here right along the base of the fingers, that is a recommendation that I personally would make. I think it is better to have the grip more in that position. Now, there are different theories. I think this is also a pretty solid image right here. See again how it's running along the pad of the fingers, not deep up into the palm where his pointer finger is. This one is getting it up a little bit high. I don't recommend that. This is another kind of pretty good spot here where it's running again along that pad line of the fingers. That's my recommendation. And so definitely looks up some information about grip. Now, it also appears to me that you have a 10-finger grip, which means you just have all 10 of your fingers kind of like a baseball bat. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think on the PGA Tour, the most common grips would be interlocking or the overlapping or Varden grip. But the 10-finger grip, there's not a problem with that. I think it's more important that you get it set correctly, either strong or neutral or weak, and then also whether it's in the palm or on the pad, kind of more on the base of the fingers. So definitely a huge fundamental that I would encourage for you to take a look at. And really, I think once you can get a feel for that, then I think that'll put you in a better position to work on how you release the club. So again, as I was mentioning, actually, to be honest, a lot of the movements here are very good. Now, as we come here in the downswing, there's just a little bit. I think a lot of this is just caused by your grip and your because the club is coming open here, kind of requires you to cast out a little bit or to dump some of these angles and kind of swipe across the ball a little bit, producing a little bit of a fade or a slice spin. And so my recommendation would actually be, if you can get your grip into a better position, what I want you to feel at this point is that you're actually being pretty aggressive with this right elbow, driving it in towards your belly button, okay? And that's going to help to take this shaft angle here, and you actually want it to drop down. You want the club head to drop behind you. So if you'll notice, you see how the club is kind of, if you watch this club head right here, I'm going to get rid of this line. Watch the club head as you come down. You'll notice it's pretty much just kind of moving towards the ball. And actually, if I back up a little bit, let's compare where it was in the backswing versus in the downswing. Okay, so if we take an image right here, this is where the club was, the shaft, the angle of the shaft relative to the hands is in the backswing. And then in the downswing, I think you'll notice we're on top of that. So you're at a bit of a steeper angle. Okay? If anything, you want to flip that around where you're a little more upright in the backswing, and then you use the elbow drive and your wrists to lay that guy down. And what that really allows you to do is attack the ball from the inside and use your rotation. You can use the large muscles in your body, in your hips, your core, and your chest to really turn and rotate through the ball. And what I see here is mostly an arm-driven movement. You do have some rotation of your body, but because the shaft is coming in a little bit high and the face is open, it causes you to lose a lot of power. And you look like a pretty strong guy, and I think you could probably generate pretty good club head speed with just a little bit better grasp on some of these fundamentals. Last thing I want to mention, and this is just something as you progress, right? So after you gain a little bit better handle on the grip, and then a little bit better handle on how the club is supposed to move in space, then I want to think about increasing the length of your backswing, okay? And what I mean by that is the backswing should be really driven by two things, and that would be the turning of the hips and the turning of the shoulders. And when I watch your backswing, kind of at about this position, there's really not any more turn happening, and it's kind of just moving the arms, okay? So from here, what I want to see would be a continuing of this hip going back, this hip coming forward, this knee coming forward, this knee slightly straightening. And then that'll give you plenty of room to drive that shoulder back, that shoulder under, and you're kind of on this plane here. Kind of a lot of lines on the screen, but I hope that you get the idea. But really continuing to turn your body. And some of this will be limited by your flexibility. And you want to be a little cautious about, going too far with your arms. You don't want the right elbow to break down. You don't want the wrists to really fold back. But I do think that from this position, if you would open up your hips a little bit more and then really see if you can get those shoulders to turn so that they're kind of ending up at a 90-degree angle to the ball, I think that would really benefit you as far as giving yourself more time to generate some power. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or comments down below. Consider subscribing for some more golf content like this, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, bye.